you know, when it comes to the Enugu International Airport, I think my partner in crime, Nze Onwuka, who has actually joined me on this journey for 380 something days now, still on the Enugu International Airport, trying to make sense out of the whole thing that was happening. Now, at some point when the Enugu International Airport was closed down, remember vividly, or rather recall, that we made calls for the work breakdown or the work schedule to be made public. Now, I go back and tell people, had they made that public, we wouldn't be where we are today, because it means every single person would know this is what was paid for. This is what, you know, we are expecting. And let me share something with us, if the moderator allows me. I've been able to today, this afternoon, about 2 hours ago, actually get that information. Now the question is, why did it take us this long to actually lay our hands on this information? Now, because it's apparently what we are now doing is firefighting. I had extensive conversation today with those that were involved at the Enugu International Airport. The issue that actually marred the whole thing, from my personal observation, I would say that the fanfare we had at Enugu last weekend, a week from today, was not necessary. And that actually was what led to the whole brouhaha. If we had a low key where you explained to the people and the stakeholders that this airport is actually completed, the runway actually. Now, every other thing that is happening around the airport, these are the timelines that they will be completed. I don't think anyone would be, up against, because people would actually be happy that the airport reopened and work continued. But again, I had insisted even today that I still cannot place my head around the assemblage of the who is who that we had within the environment. It made nonsense of the whole work that was done in Enugu. And let us not forget, the Enugu International Airport was in really bad shape. Not only that it was in bad shape, we had issue of radio masts, you had issue of abattoir, you had issue of surrounding houses that spanned about 1.1 kilometer from the airport that were eventually later demolished. That meant about 2,100 people lost their homes. That's one thing that we must also note. And I must also note that even in doing that, that people who have lost their ancestral homes have not been compensated in no way, shape, or form. To the point that one of them, Mrs. Veronica Alum Ngene, is one of those that I'm engaging on GoFundMe to raise money to relocate her, because it is an aberration that someone who is 80 years old will have her ancestral house demolished and no plans was made to relocate her. The burial ground of 4 of her children with her husband were all bulldozed. That is an abomination. That is on the sideline. Now back to the Enugu International Airport. Obviously, I've highlighted before that the work at the Enugu International Airport ought to have been more transparent, but sadly it wasn't. And there is no gainsaying that in all the noise that happened, we lost the fact that must be stated, actually. I mean, I stand with facts. I don't care whose fault is God. The Enugu International Airport, about 3 pilots as of today had confirmed that that is the best runway in Nigeria today. They said that that is the smoothest runway that they have flown into in Nigeria. And these are pilots that uses other, runways. Now, if that is the case, you can see how the mismanagement of the whole project made it possible that no one now realizes that one of the best airports that was done with glass fiber mesh. An airport that is now extended that to 3 kilometers and is, really, really well done. To the, like my good friend Oyi said, if we ever go back to the project management of that, the stakeholder management, and the timeline, there are 1 million questions to ask. I pointed at one today. If we pay attention, the minister said that close to $300 million, again, $300 million, let that sink in for a moment, was put into that airport. Then my question is, when Stella Odua was the Minister of Aviation, and we took $500 million to rehabilitate 4 international airports, and those were Abuja, Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, for $500 million. That was what we took. And here we are, and we are being told that we have spent close to $300 million. I mean, I'm not insinuating anything, I'll be the judge, but does that make sense? And when you look at the whole scenario surrounding Enugu International Airport, the only thing that is gratifying is that tomorrow being Monday, according to NCAA, Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, that Enugu Akpe International Airport will be open for international flights. Now, the information I also got is that today, being the 6th, the night landing with the old ILS system will be turned on. If the testing that's going to happen today goes on right, that means by tomorrow being Monday, we can all say that Enugu International Airport, or rather Akpe International Airport, has finally become an international an international airport that would have airlines from everywhere landing there. Now, by sometime end of October, by November, the ICO would come over and do the certification that would, if passed, hopefully, the whole plan is that all the job will be done by that time. If passed, that would mean that the airport would then have a Category 2 certification, and invariably means that airlines like British Airways, Lufthansa, and Co. now fly into Enugu. So as it is now, the issue at hand is, yes, there were failures, but in some way, and I will conclude with this, I am somehow actually happy that the runway was done and the other parts weren't, because it would have been more deadlier, because none of us understands runway. None of us, here, would understand the technicalities in runway, right? So now it's no longer, because I know what it took us to always go in there to sneak videos and pictures, get them, because no one was able and ready to get these things out. Now, it is left for the everyone to be journalists. Now, to go in, anytime you fly in there, you take pictures, you still inform the world, this airport is still this way. If I have the permission, okay, now let me share this with us quickly. So this is the work schedule that I talked about. Now, what is the scope of work? The scope of work is this. That is, when they said the number one, mobilization and demobilization of equipment, site survey, these were the things that we were, again, saying that they should have given to us. Again, as I said, the glass fiber grid mesh that they used. This is part of it. You come to a point where they began to tell us the milestone. Of course, here in January, when the ILS was installed, was when they actually started the installation of the glass fiber mesh. Now you can see the things they've done so far, the concrete storm part, that is, if you look at the airport, you see the both ends of that airport has those concrete where the airport turns around, which is new and which is one of those things that ought to have been done. But here, the airfield lighting, you can see that started August 3rd, yet to be completed, because part of this, part of the cable for this is still in production in Germany. Now again, you come, the runway show, that's what Oyi alluded to. As the airport was still a night before the official commissioning, we went there on the 29th. Lo and behold, even part of the shoulders were still not yet done. Again, there is failure here that we can always point out that things weren't done right and things weren't, done properly the way they ought to. But one thing here is, I have come to understand that not all the jobs, especially most of the jobs that we are now seeing, actually was not part of the initial contract of the Enugu International Airport. However, I must note again, had they told us this from ab initio, that would have helped manage stakeholders' expectations. People would have known, what are you, and the language would have changed. And the BMC, or rather, the campaign, the people that were campaigning that they have finished it and that the airport looked so fantastic, because when you go on Twitter, you will see sometimes where they will take Port Harcourt International Airport, Abuja Airport, and jumble the pictures together with the Enugu runway that was a professional photo trick, standing at the end, putting the camera down, take a slant picture, match them all together. Then it will be, for those who are not discerning enough, they wouldn't know which one is fake and which one is real. Wow. So far, that is on it on the Enugu International Airport. I will yield for the next speaker and I will take questions thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your submission.
As you learn in project management, you do your risk registers, then you look at you plan scenarios, but it's common sense. Yes. We knew ab initio there was going to be land acquisition that's going to span after Oyemene. Anyone who has been in Enugu would know this. Now, suddenly, obviously, the people were told before. Let's get that clear. People were told, but people didn't move, because if you had constructed a new layout and moved them, it would have been easier. Or if you had gone into buying lands for them, it would have been easier. But sadly, when I intervened, the senator for that area is the former governor of where's the echo coming from? So the former governor of Enugu State, whom I wrote to Cornelia Njenje, and I made frantic efforts to see the Igwe Emmanuel as well. And sadly, all these were there was no roadway. And even the governor himself, at least, read my message, watched the video, and still nothing. So it caused, it made us believe what were they thinking. It's really, really disappointing and disheartening to note that as I speak to you today, being Sunday the 6th, I am not aware that those that were displaced in Emene have gotten any form of succor from the government.
That's pretty bad if you ask me. Okay, I do hope that the way is half ready or almost ready or prepared. But materials for airfield were still under production or construction somewhere in Japan.
In Germany.
In Germany, rather.
In Germany, yes.
they book ahead or go forward to the company to say we'll be needing this at this point in time. So why is it still under construction, even when Nigerians are being told, or Enugu indigenes are being told that the airport is set?
Well, it's when you start, in Nigeria, things sometimes can only happen when you start digging. It's only when I started digging that I actually start getting the fact that these are cables to be used for the part of the runway 26 that is still under production in Germany, and delivery date is October. For now, there is an old ILS system and there is an old airfield lightning that they would use with the old cables. So once this one arrives, which I was told is not going to go via ship, it's going to be airlifted the moment it's completed and brought into Enugu. So the whole thing is, and here is where I, sadly, I might tend to believe them. Reason being, if they are scheduling for the ICO to come in November for the airport certification for CAT 2, that means that must, and the rest of the parameter fencing must be completed before that time.
Wow. It's still a shocker because I'm thinking if the airfield cables were going to be completed in October, so what exactly was commissioned?
Runway, simple.
That's really, really interesting. So we have to commission an incomplete runway. This doesn't sound good at all. People, trust me, it doesn't sound good. From my little knowledge, I do understand that you commission something that is set, ready for use, not something that is still under construction.
Oh, whoa, let's get something here. The runway is under construction. The runway has been done. The runway can be used, both local and international. If the testing they're going to do tonight to turn on the part of the airfield lightning to the beams to test it tonight for night landing, if that works, it will be fair and safe to say that from tomorrow being the 7th, which NCAA has already said that international flight is now safe to resume. So that is under that notion. But again, if we move away from the runway and go into the terminal, that, my understanding, it has nothing to do with this, closure. The only thing that most of us are saying is, if you had closed the airport for 1 year, I mean, I would rather say it's common sense that you should have put everything into consideration. And in all this, no one is actually talking about the international terminal. The international terminal we had, the minister said a week from today that he has already signed 1 billion. Now, here is the joker. The international terminal was awarded, I think, for about 14.5 billion naira in 2012-13, right? So far, we paid 7 to 8 billion. Now, in actual sense, what we should be owing in order to complete this runway should be about between 6 to 7 billion, right? To complete the international terminal. But as it sits today, because the Chinese are no longer working there, so the 1 billion you have given them, the argument that I made to understand is that we will need about 15 billion to complete the terminal. So how does that work? We paid 7 to 8, we still need about, so you can see when project variation has been done, the cost is ongoing. If they continue the delay, by the time Enugu terminal will be done, we might be going home with about 30 billion naira for that international terminal.
I just realized that I don't have a hand-raising device. So, President, if you allow me to...
Okay, please go ahead. I was actually going to open the floor for more questions from
okay. Before I ask my question, please, if you allow me to share this, so it will serve as a background to my question. On August 30, a lot of Nigerians were happy to see this very fine image. That is the Minister of Aviation arriving at the Enugu International Airport to commission the international airport we were promised at the Canadian International Airport. If you look down, this is the first picture that we received from there.
Yes.
This is the fine, everything looks fine. I was one of the first people who rushed to the media and joyfully broadcasted to Nigerians that we have a brand new international airport. Just a few moments afterwards, we started hearing things differently. I think it was from Maazị Ezeoke, and then subsequently we started getting this type of pictures that a lot of Nigerians started asking questions. Why would you raise uncompleted airport to us? So my question is this. You maintain that Enugu International Airport is currently uncompleted. First of all, before that aircraft landed in Nigeria, there was a time they used, was it properly certified to receive aircrafts at that point? In other words, is it illegal for the minister and the entourage to land at the airport the way it is if it were not properly certified? And my second, okay, let's take my first question first.
Let's take the first question.
Well, somehow, please, I must make a disclaimer here. I am not speaking for the government, obviously. I'm just a concerned citizen, as all of us here, regarding the airport. I held that notion that it was illegal until yesterday evening when I was put right. My idea was that it was illegal to have used even land at that airport, but I was made to understand that FAN done on Saturday, the 29th, that FAN did what they call friction test and pavement whatever test, and certified it for those aircraft that came in, one on that same Saturday and the other on Sunday to come in. So again, it is, it's internal thing. So it's not like any international body has certified it. The only time the international body is going to get involved, that is ICO, that is based in Canada, will be when that will be done in November. And therefore, that's why I personally think they are trying to do everything possible to ensure that the airport will be ready in November for that to happen. Because if that happens, it's going to be, for the people of Southeast, very good.
Okay, if I'm, are aircrafts landing at this Canadian airport now, whether local or international?
Yes.
But international aircrafts are not landing at the moment?
No, international aircraft are not landing because they are not authorized to land until tomorrow morning. Until actually this night's 0001. So any moment from 1 minute past midnight, they will be authorized to.
Sorry, my network.
Sequel to what Oyi said.
All right.
It is imperative also to reinforce that the people that are in Enugu or the businesses surrounding, you see, we cannot continue this way. It's not about Enugu now. The whole of Nigeria, we must somehow begin to do things right. An airport being closed, what was the government plan to support the businesses? I wouldn't be surprised that those who own shops there are being told to pay rents even when the airport was closed. I wouldn't be surprised because it wouldn't surprise me. What was government's plan to support them? Were any monetary supports given to them? And the answer would definitely be no.
No.
Again, exactly. So when something like this happens, I'm not saying this is because it's Enugu. Even if it's Abuja that will be closed tomorrow, these are businesses. These are people who have been paying taxes. I mean, the taxes they've been paying for years must amount to something. If not, what's the point? And having said that, one thing we have to do, and that that includes the Elumba media team, that includes Oyi and Igbo Renaissance Film, that includes myself and Njenje and the Igbo Ekunie. What we must do is to keep pushing. Now, we've been told in November. One of the things I've done is to actually get someone, the person who is in charge of this palliative and who is the lead on this project, to get, sit down with us like we are doing today, sometime in September, to find a date, maybe the last week of September or first week of October, to go back again to the timelines I shared with us before. Now say, these are things you said in this file you will do on this date. Now, where are we with that? Let us take this up. Let us do it, because that is the only way. Because now I'm, again, you learn every day. If I had these informations before, there is no reason why we wouldn't have this, maybe Zoom or anything, like monthly, even if it's bi-monthly or every 2 months, to get updates on this. That is the only way probably we would get people to sit up, apart from the normal campaigns that we do on this.